Good morning, good morning, good morning again. Thank you all for being here. My name is Joseph Churchill. I go by Church. I'm your tech moderator for today's presentation of Start with Hello. If you have any questions, any concerns, we are using the Q&A section instead of the chat. We're going to test that out right now. So if you educators could put in what class you teach and what students you have right now, what class you teach and what students you have right now in the Q&A section. We'll go ahead and test that out. Also, if you can't hear me, can't hear anything I'm saying, or if you can't hear the presenter or have issues during the presentation, this is where you go to the Q&A section and put the information in. The chat has been disabled. We'll also be doing the thing called Program Jams. Program Jams is where we'll be asking questions about different songs that you could post, songs that inspire you, songs that go along with the program. I want to thank everyone for being here so far. Look like we have bio in 10th grade. We have algebra 2. And you have 6 students. We have U.S. history and sophomores. We have homeroom. We have CP and honors biology and 10th graders. We have ESL, I guess it's English and Lit. And we have algebra and 9th grade. All right. We have art and English teachers here in the homeroom. We have English again. We have ethics studies and world history in 10th grade. Okay, we're excited to have all of you here this morning. Of course, this is something simply, what we're talking about is how to start with hello. Starting with hello is something very simple. So here's a question. What's something that you can do to brighten someone's day? Put something in chat. What's something you can do to brighten someone's day without saying anything? What's something you can do to brighten someone's day? Okay, you're doing announcements. Okay. Be kind, hold the door. Yep. Okay. We can smile. Yep. Give a compliment. Yep. Tell a joke. Yes. All right. What are some things you can do to brighten someone's day without speaking? Share a smile. Yes. Greet students warmly. Yes. Remember the little details from previous conversation and make them a gift about it. That's a great one. I like that one. Because sometimes we forget the details and we forget what we talked about with someone, but the small things, remember the conversation. Have a laugh together, new social interaction, listen to them. Yes. So what we're about to do today is show you what we call a program called Start with Hello. And it's simple. Hello. That's exactly what it is. This morning, woke up. So I want to come in and say hello. Brighten your day by just being upbeat, being smile, have a good attitude this morning. And it's simply starting with hello. So that's what we're about to do. So we're going to teach you all how to recognize things that's going on in your community, as well as recognize that someone's having a good day, bad day. But what the first thing we want to do is simply start with hello. So coming to you, we have a great presenter, this young lady. We've been working together now for over 2 years, and I'm excited to be working with her again today. We just came back from a retreat, and it was good to actually finally meet her in person. And so I want y'all to know how energetic, how fun, how much she's going to give you all the information that you need to start your mornings off right. So with that being said, I need everyone, that's everyone in the room, to do this. Put one hand up and put this hand up. And then you put them together for your presenter, Miss Sarah Militello.
Thank you so much, Church. Y'all, Church has the best energy. Thank you so much for introducing me. I loved all the ideas y'all put in the chat, and I'm super excited to be with you this morning. Like Church said, my name is Sarah Militello. To tell you a little bit about myself, I was a classroom teacher for many years. I was a classroom teacher for 20 years, and I taught in Miami, Florida, and Tampa, Florida, and New York City. And now I have the honor and the privilege of empowering you all in Sandy Hook Promises life-saving violence prevention programs. And so now that you know a little bit about me, I want to tell you a little bit about the organization that Church and I work for, Sandy Hook Promise. So our organization was started after a tragedy that took place at an elementary school in Connecticut. And after that tragedy took place, parents, people in the community that lost loved ones, they got together and they made a promise. And the promise they made is that they would do everything possible so that no person ever had to suffer from this kind of tragedy again. And so with that promise, they started conducting all kinds of research. And in that research, what they found is that people who feel left out, alone, people who feel like they're not part of what's going on, or like the people around them just don't get them, that can lead to some pretty bad stuff. And at the most extreme, it could lead to someone possibly hurting themselves or hurting someone else. And so that's what we're trying to prevent with this program today. And this program, like Church said, is called Start with Hello. And the first thing we're going to do is read this quote. And this quote was written by the brilliant and prolific writer Maya Angelou.
Recording in progress.
And Maya Angelou said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And I saw some awesome things in the chat, including remembering something somebody said and bringing them a gift about it or bringing it up later. I think is such a great way to make someone feel good. And so this quote is going to serve as like a theme for our entire presentation. We're going to keep thinking about this and keep coming back to it. So I know Church asked you to grab something to write with and something to write on. So the first activity we're going to do is take a second to think about and write down 2 words that describe how you think you make your friends and classmates feel. For me, I think I like to make my friends feel heard and comforted. When they tell me that they're going to do something, I'll check on them, tell them good luck that day, let them know I'm thinking of them. But I also like to make my friends laugh. I like to make them feel entertained. So those are the 2 I would write down. I'm going to give y'all a minute to write that down on your own. 2 words that describe how you think you make your friends and classmates feel. We still have 45 seconds. And teachers, while students are writing, if you want to put some of their answers in the chat, in the Q&A, that's totally cool too. I'd love to interact as much as we can in this virtual world. Still take 30 more seconds. Take 15 more seconds. Writing down words describing how we think we make our friends and classmates feel. All right, so like I said, we're going to be coming back to this quote throughout the presentation. But let's talk about why this program is important. I know y'all are in homeroom and why we're taking the time out of your very busy academic day to talk about this program. Well, what we know is that 70% of young people experience loneliness or isolation. And as humans, just like we need something to drink when we're thirsty and something to eat when we're hungry, we need these positive relationships in our lives to feel well. So we have 2 goals for this program today. First, we're going to learn about and understand these ideas of loneliness and social isolation, how these things are the same, how they're different, and what some of that bad stuff that I mentioned that they can lead to. We're also going to learn how to create a community that fights against loneliness and isolation so that every person in the community is feeling accepted, respected, and seen in that community. So let's jump right into the first goal, understanding loneliness and social isolation. What is loneliness? What is social isolation? Well, These two ideas are really similar, but they're a little bit different too. Loneliness is a feeling that we have. It's a feeling that we have when our social needs aren't being met. So we can feel lonely even when we're surrounded by other people because of the fact that loneliness is a feeling and we take our feelings with us everywhere. So I mentioned I was a classroom teacher in Miami and I had a student that moved from that moved from the Midwest all the way to Miami. And she was really different than a lot of the other students in my school. She was into different music, she was into different books. She was also really tall and had bright blue hair. So some of her differences were really noticeable to the students when she got there. And nobody was mean to her. But because she had so many different interests, nobody really made a connection with her either. And as a result of that, she felt lonely, and that began to affect her attendance coming to school. So even though she was surrounded by other students that were her age, other students, that probably did have a lot of things in common with her, because they didn't connect, because she didn't feel that way, like people saw her or had things in common with her, she was experiencing loneliness. Now let's talk about social isolation. Social isolation is a little bit different because social isolation is an actual physical state. It's when someone doesn't have a lot of interactions with other people in their school community or outside of school. It could mean that, maybe that you don't know who any of their friends are, you're not sure who they sit with at lunch. They actually don't have these interactions. There's nobody around for them to hang out with. So looking at these two pictures, picture A and picture B, in picture A, we see this young lady who's all the way at the front of the screen. I noticed by her body language that she's unengaged. She has her hand on her face. Everybody around her looks like they're all looking at something and talking about something, but she's turned away. She's not involved. Since we know loneliness is this feeling that we have, even when other people are around, do we think that she's experiencing loneliness or social isolation? Teachers, if you can help me out by asking your students in picture A if she's experiencing loneliness or isolation, and let us know in the Q&A. And do a little pop quiz. Which picture is showing loneliness? We see she is by herself. She has her hand on her face. She's turned away. We see the young man in picture B is physically alone. He's looking out the window. He looks like maybe he might have been exposed to something because he's got his mask on, but he is completely by himself. So is picture A loneliness or is picture B loneliness? You can let us know in the Q&A. Look at all these answers coming in. Yes, if you said picture A is loneliness, you are correct. She is not physically alone. She's surrounded by other people, but I can tell by her body language that she's not interested in what's going on with all the people who seem to be around her age. They seem to be interacting on something else. And she just might not be feeling connected to what they're talking about. So, what we know is that loneliness is a feeling we have. And because we take our feelings with us everywhere, we can be lonely even when we're surrounded by other people. And then when we look at picture B, we see social isolation. This student is completely by themselves. I always imagine that he's looking out the window and seeing like other people doing something that he can't be involved in. And it looks like it's because maybe he's sick. All right, so great job on loneliness and social isolation. So at the beginning of the presentation, I let you know that we know that both loneliness and isolation can lead to some pretty bad stuff. And at the most extreme, that can lead to someone possibly hurting themselves or hurting someone else. But there are a lot of other negative impacts of loneliness and social isolation. Loneliness and isolation can lead to negative impacts on your mental health, causing anxiety, causing depression, causing low self esteem. It can also have negative impacts on your physical health. Like we said at the beginning, as humans, we need positive relationships to be well. So, loneliness or isolation can lead to someone actually feeling physically ill or can lead to substance abuse. And the last impact of loneliness and social isolation, this can affect your success in school. So I told you about my student that came from the Midwest to Miami. And, one of the things that happened when she didn't find connection with any of the other students in her high school, well, she stopped coming to school as much. her attendance was lower. And then I know you all know that if you're not there, it's really hard to make the grades. So her attendance was lower, and eventually she was a senior and it affected her ability to graduate. So with this program, we are trying to prevent, someone hurting themselves, someone becoming violent and hurting someone else, but we're also trying to prevent all of these negative impacts. But I know that some of you might be thinking right now, like, sometimes I want to be by myself. And listen, that is totally normal. That is called healthy alone time. And, sometimes we need some time alone to recharge, to become more creative, to be more productive. There's lots of things that we can do to spend, some healthy alone time. For me, I was a reading teacher. I love to read a good book. I try to go for like a 30-minute walk every day. I spend a lot of time talking to people. So that quiet time is nice for me to recharge my battery. You might spend healthy alone time watching Netflix or playing a video game, playing on your phone. There's lots of things that you do by yourself that's healthy, and that is totally normal and okay. And so now that we understand that loneliness is a feeling we have, and we can feel lonely even when we're surrounded by other people because we feel like those people maybe just don't get us or we don't have a connection with them. And that social isolation means that we are physically alone. We don't have those opportunities, don't have anybody to sit with, don't feel like we have anyone to hang out with after school. That would be social isolation. Now that we understand those, we're going to learn how to create a community where no one is feeling left out, alone, or isolated. So, to create an inclusive school community that fights against loneliness and social isolation. The way we're going to do that is in three simple steps. And the first step is to see someone alone, to recognize that that person might be struggling, having a hard time making connections, and then to reach out and help. And then in the third step, we'll learn some strategies on how exactly to do that. And that step is start with hello. So we have this quote from the play Hamilton, and it is, "What is a legacy? A legacy is planting seeds in the garden that you might never get to see." And when we think back to that Maya Angelou quote of how we want to be remembered, our legacy is what we leave behind, how people remember us. In the school community. So I keep thinking back to what one of y'all wrote in the chat about, doing something thoughtful for someone. What a great legacy when people look back on high school that they remember you as someone who was really thoughtful. And that brings us into our first step. So, our first step is to see someone alone, to notice someone, to recognize that maybe they're looking for a friendly face or they're looking for connection with someone, to recognize that they're alone and in need of that healthy relationship and not just having healthy alone time. So, how do I know if they're having healthy alone time or if they're lonely or isolated? Well, I have some signs that might, let you know that that person is feeling lonely or isolated. You might notice that this person spends long periods of time by themselves. You might not be sure who their friends are. You might notice them sitting by themselves a lot during free times, unstructured times, passing periods, lunchtime, after school. You might also notice them frequently avoiding social situations. Um, or they might share with you that they're having frequent feelings of low self esteem, feeling like they're not good enough, feeling like they're not confident enough to talk to other people in the school. Or that person might be having social anxiety. And social anxiety is not just feeling nervous, like on the first day of school, or if you have a big presentation to do. Social anxiety is a real and persistent fear of being watched, of being judged, of being embarrassed in a social situation. There's also the possibility that someone shares with you that they have this overwhelming feeling of being alone, even when they're around other people. And like we just learned, that's loneliness. Even if they're not putting the word to it, we know that if you feel alone, even when you're around other people, that you're experiencing loneliness. And it's probably because you just don't feel connected with that person. And so now I want to ask y'all a question. And teachers, if you can write students' answers in the Q&A, it would be super helpful. Where do you think that we see people who are lonely and isolated? Where can loneliness and isolation be found in our school community? And you can let us know in the Q&A. We have lunchtime, in class, in the bathroom. During group work time, absolutely. Practically everywhere. And that is a great answer. Practically everywhere. And I am going to move on from there in classrooms, bathrooms, cafeterias, almost everywhere. Maybe in gym class. Yeah, for me, definitely in gym class because I was really not athletic. And so I felt always a little bit awkward in gym class. But if you said anything, you were correct. Anything you were thinking, you were correct because loneliness and isolation can be found anywhere. It could be found anywhere and everywhere. It could be, like you said, in the cafeteria. It could be in passing periods in the school day. It could be an after school event that has nothing to do with school or even at home, with the people that you're, with your family, the people that you live with. Loneliness and isolation is something that can be found in any age group, in any place. So I want you to take a second and think about a time that you or someone you knew felt lonely or were isolated. And if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes and kind of put yourself back in the moment. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, you can just kind of soften them and think about a time that you or someone you knew was feeling lonely or socially isolated. Think about where you were. Think about how that felt. And I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you a story about how I met one of my friends that is a lifelong friendship that I've had, and I met in middle school. So I grew up in Miami, Florida, and when I was in middle school, my middle school it's different now, but my middle school went seventh, eighth, and ninth grade. And when I was in ninth grade, we had been in the school for it was our third year in the school. We were kind of the leaders of the school. And we didn't get a lot of new students at the school. Most of the students who went to our middle school had gone to the same elementary school as us. And when we did get a new student, it was usually at the beginning of the school year. So in October, I started to notice a new girl in our school, and I started to notice her in a lot of places. I started to notice her in the cafeteria, and she would do this thing. She had curly hair, and she would take it and she would put it in her face, and she would kind of put her head down, and she would kind of hide from people. She was avoiding social situations. She would get out of the cafeteria really fast so she didn't have to talk to anybody. And she would do the same thing in a class that we had. She would do the same thing in the hallway. She would put her hair in her face and she would get out of there really fast. I started to notice her and I started to think about her. And I started to think if I were her and I came in October of the last year of middle school and I didn't know anybody and everybody kind of knew each other, what would I want? And so I decided that I was going to say something to her, that I was going to walk up to her and I was going to try to include her in some way. So I remember it was during our history class. And at the end of class, we would go turn our assignments into the teacher. So I saw her get up to go turn her assignment into the teacher. And I decided to go up after her. And I said, "Hey, you're Amber, right?" And she was like, "Yeah." I think I kind of scared her a little because I'm loud and outgoing. And I was like, "Amber, my friend Rachel's having a party tomorrow. And I wanted to know if you wanted to come." And she was like, I'll ask my mom. And so, long story short, she went home and she asked her mom, and her mom said yes. And she came to Rachel's party that night. And that was 1996. And we are all still very good friends today. But I have to tell you, there was something I didn't know about Amber. See, I thought she was shy because she was a new student at the school and she didn't know anybody. And it was kind of like everybody already knew each other and she didn't know where to fit in. But what I didn't know is that she's actually not shy at all. She actually was going through a really hard time because she had just recently and suddenly lost her father. And as a result of losing her father, her whole life had changed. She had to move schools, which is why she came in that funny time of the year. Her mom took a job working for the electric company. So she was gone at night a lot and she had to take care of her younger sister. And she was just having a really hard time. And I'm not saying that my friend was going to hurt herself or hurt someone else. But what I am saying is you never know what you can prevent when you reach out to someone who's feeling lonely and isolated. You never know what you can prevent, but you do know what you can gain. And for me, I gained a lifelong friendship. And yeah, I was there for her after her father passed and helped her meet new friends at the school. But she's been there for me countless times since. So this is a great way to make new friendships. And that's what we're going to talk about next. We're going to talk about reaching out and helping. Because I'm sure that even as I'm talking, you're thinking about a lot of things that might stand in the way of reaching out and helping. Why it can be difficult to go up to someone that maybe you've never met before. Maybe you're worried about clicks. You're worried about, how that person's going to fit into the group of friends you already have. These cliques, these unspoken social rules, they're like these invisible walls that tell you, like, it might not be okay for you to talk to that person. Maybe we feel like my identity, my popularity is at stake. What are people going to think if I reach out to that person? And this is when I want to go back to that quote that we learned at the beginning and think about what we want our memory to be when we graduate from high school, how we want people to remember that we made them feel. And I think when we think about that, it makes it easy to recognize that we should not let any of this stuff stand in our way of helping, keep someone safe and help them feeling included and part of what's going on. Another thing that can make it difficult to help is like, how do I know that person wants to talk to me? Like maybe I think that they want to talk and I'm wrong, and I'm worried that they're going to reject me, that my instincts are wrong, and I thought they wanted to talk and they don't. This fear of rejection is something we're going to address in step 3. I'm going to give you some good strategies. If you're shy yourself, if you're worried that that person is not going to respond well. And another thing students tell me that might make it difficult to do this is I just don't know what to say. I'm shy too. I don't know how to start that conversation. So both of these dot points we're going to cover in the next step, start with below. Because listen, this can really benefit that person so much when we reach out and help them. Yes, we can prevent the possibility of them hurting themselves or someone else, but we can also make them less anxious about coming to school. We can make them feel better having a friendly face, increasing their self-esteem, increasing their success in school. Like my student in Miami, had she had a friendly face, would have been easier to get there every day if she had someone to talk to, someone smiling at her. And my favorite thing is simply brightening someone's day. And when I think about how I want people to remember how I made them feel, simply brightening someone's day, I think, is a great way to be thought of by our classmates. But it doesn't just benefit that person, it also benefits you, increasing your confidence. Y'all are going to be going to job interviews, going to new schools after you graduate. This can increase your confidence to start those conversations that maybe you've never had before. I always think about, when I was in the first couple of years of high school, I was like, I never wanted to, we had house phones at that time, to show my age, but I never wanted to answer the phone. I didn't want to order my own food at the restaurant. I wanted someone else to talk to me, to order for me. This can increase your confidence to have those conversations with people, as you grow. It can also increase your problem solving skills. You're thinking the best way to approach that person, the best way to find connection. And most importantly, it can increase your ability to empathize, to put yourselves in the shoes of someone who might be different than you and think about how you'd want to be treated in that situation. And that brings us to our third step, which is start with hello. And in this step, we're going to talk about how to do that, how to, start a conversation with someone that, maybe you've never talked to before, someone you think, maybe is in need of a friendly face. So we can start with small acts of kindness. So if you're feeling like you yourself are kind of socially anxious or shy, if you're having that fear of rejection, these small acts of kindness are for you. Make eye contact with someone, smile at them, wave at them, let them know that you see them, that you recognize them, that you are a friendly face. Another really easy one, if you're worried about rejection, if you're worried about, not making a connection with that person, like their post on social media, let them know that you recognize, that they went somewhere, that they did something or posted a cute picture of themselves. So liking their post is a nice way that you can reach out if you're also feeling a little bit shy, but you want to make that connection. You can welcome a student. If you have a new student at school, it's great to welcome that person, let them know, that they have a place to sit at lunch would be a great thing to do. You can also offer help. Maybe you noticed someone was absent and you grabbed their homework. That's a great small act of kindness that you can do to let someone know that you value them, that you see them. You can also start a conversation. And you don't have to start with actually the word hello. You can start with whatever feels natural to you, your own unique hello style. And I know all over the country, we give this presentation and people say hi or hey in all different ways all over the country. So I want you to say hello in the way that's comfortable for you. That might be, a head nod. That might be saying, hey, or what's up, whatever works for you. When you approach that person, smile, be enthusiastic, be warm and welcoming. Let them know that you're coming up to them for a friendly reason. You're coming up to them, with good intentions. Another way to start a conversation is to give a compliment. Giving a compliment to start a conversation is a great way to start a conversation. Receiving a compliment always puts a smile on the recipient's face. So giving a compliment is a great way to let them know, like, hey, I love what you said in class, or I thought that was a really funny joke that you made, or I saw your project and I thought it was great. Giving a compliment is a great way to let that person know that you're approaching them for positive and friendly reasons. Another way to start a conversation is to ask a question and care about the answer that you're asking. So often we say, like, hey, how are you? And it's just kind of part of the hello, and we're not really asking how they are. But you might want to ask a simple question, like a yes or no question, like, oh, we have math together. How do you like math? Or do you like our math class? And they might say, yeah, I love it. I've learned so much this year. I really think, our teacher is great, and go on and on. Or they might just say no or yeah. And that lets you know that maybe they're not ready to continue the conversation. So asking a yes or no question is a really great way to start a conversation. You can kind of gauge how much they want to talk or how little they want to talk. But my favorite way to start a conversation is to use a conversation starter. I love a would you rather conversation starter. Like, would you rather be an only child or have 6 siblings? In any would you rather conversation starter, and they can go on and on. They can be really funny and fun, and they cause a lot of conversation thinking about why you chose one thing over the other. Another great conversation starter to have in your back pocket is a conversation starter that we call your faves. And this conversation starter is simply asking someone what their favorite is in any category. And this could go on and on. You can think of literally thousands of categories. What's your favorite holiday? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? What's your favorite dessert? What's your favorite song right now? What's your favorite social media platform? It can go on and on. So these conversation starters are a great way to find something in common with someone that maybe you thought you would never have a connection with. Because truly, we all have more in common than we think we do. And starting that conversation can really let you see those things you have in common. Now, at the highest level of starting with hello, you can do an invitation, a share, or an ask. You can invite someone to join you and your friends, and you don't have to do something as intense as what I did, inviting them to like an after school activity. I saw someone said, in the Q&A that sometimes we see isolation in group work. You can ask someone who's working by themselves to join your group. Ask someone to sit with you at lunch, or, to join you in a club that you are part of after school. You can also share with someone something you created. Maybe you made a TikTok video. Maybe you made something in one of your art classes that you're really proud of. You can share that with them, that you're proud of, and talk to them about how you did that, or share something that you just really enjoy, like a new song that came out. You can also ask for someone's help. And I love this dot point because asking for someone's help really lets them know that you see them as someone who has something to offer, that you value them, that you see them as someone who has something to share with you. So you could ask for their help with an assignment or making a video. You could ask for their help with advice for a personal problem you're having. All right. So now that we know the 3 steps, that we understand loneliness and isolation and ways that we can really create this community where every person is feeling valued and accepted, respected, and seen, we're going to do a fun activity. We are going to ask you all to raise your hands and let your teachers know some names of songs, some songs that inspire you to reach out to someone who might be struggling, who might be feeling lonely or isolated, some songs that, feel friendly and exciting. And we're going to make a playlist just for your school. And we're going to send that playlist back to you so you can use that when you are, in lunch periods. You can use it for different start with hello activities after we're gone and to really remind you of the message you learned today after the presentation ends. So I'm going to give you all 2 minutes. Educators, if you can write in the chat and let us, or in the Q&A, I keep saying chat, sorry about that. If you can write in the Q&A and let us know some songs your students are inspired by when it comes to the Start with Hello message. So we are making a Start with Hello playlist. Let us know some songs in the Q&A. I will give you 2 minutes. Still have 1 minute and 30 seconds. We're getting some great songs. I'm going to read them back to you after the 2 minutes are done. So 1 full minute left to get your songs in. And like I said, we're going to copy these out and send them back to your school so you can have the whole playlist. 1 more minute, really 50 seconds now. About 20 more seconds, and I'm going to read these songs back out to you. All right, and in 5 seconds, I'm going to read these songs back to you. Get your songs in. All right, y'all, we've got some great songs in here, starting with You've Got a Friend in Me from Toy Story. We've got Fight Song. We've got Shrek, the entire soundtrack. I agree. I love that soundtrack. And I also love It's Not Easy Being Green and the Rainbow Connection by Kermit the Frog. That's such a good one. I can't believe y'all even know that. The Climb, Radiohead 2 + 2 = 5. I don't think I know that song. Linkin Park, One More Light. You've Got a Friend in Me, twice, 3 times. Lonely by Speaker Knockers. I know a different Lonely song. I don't think I know that one. Don't Stop Believing. Love Yours Diary by Alicia Keys. Discord. Calming piano songs and playlists. I like it. Stand Up. Friday Night. Flowers. Rise Up. Here Comes the Sun. Walk, Walk, Walk. It's an empathy song, basically meaning trying to understand what someone is feeling. Oh, I have to listen to that in Miss Sampson's class. The Heart Song from Scooby-Doo, Power Rangers SPD, Who Says, Selena Gomez, Unwritten. Any song by Rod Wave, Happy by Pharrell, yes, for sure. Dreams and Nightmares by Meek Mill. All right, y'all. Well, this is a great playlist. And like I said, you can see in the picture on the screen, this school featured on the screen does Turntable Tuesdays and plays their Start with Hello songs while they mix and mingle in the lunchroom to get to know people that maybe they didn't know before. And like I said, after this call, we will send this list back to your school so you can have this list of songs and you can do some activities with them to remind you of the message you learned today. And some of those activities might be led by your Student Save Promise Club. Your school has a SAVE Promise Club, and SAVE stands for Students Against Violence Everywhere. And these students are working to create closer and more connected communities. These clubs were started in honor of the student whose yearbook photo you see on the screen, Alex Orange, who died in gun violence in 1989. And since then, his legacy has been students empowering each other and empowering the school community to prevent violence. So if you're sitting in this presentation and you feel really passionate about creating this connected community, I encourage you to join your school's SAVE Promise Club. If you want to learn more, you can go to sandyhookpromise.org. I'm not sure if you're allowed to have your phones or not, but you can use this QR code to learn more about Sandy Hook Promise SAVE Promise clubs as well. So like I said, these are student-led clubs that work to keep these messages going after church and I are gone. All right, and upcoming events, we are actually right in the middle of National Youth Violence Prevention Week. This is a great opportunity to raise awareness in your school community on violence prevention. And before we wrap up, I want to leave y'all with a promise challenge. And for this promise challenge, I'm going to ask that you all spend just a second today or before you leave school on Friday writing a kind note to a classmate, giving them a compliment. That might mean sending them a text message. It might mean putting a little sticky note, on their bag or on their desk. And let them know, something that you see that's great about them. So give that person a compliment. Remember this quote from the beginning of the presentation? I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Earlier, y'all wrote down 2 words that describe how you think you make people feel. So after sitting in this presentation, I want y'all to do one more writing exercise for me. And I want you to think about how you want to be remembered by your friends and classmates after you graduate, after you leave this school and move on to the next thing you're going to do in life. And then follow up with what you're going to do to make this happen. And educators, if you want to write in the chat some of the things your students are saying about how they want to be remembered or what they'll do to make it happen, I'd be happy to share them out. We are just about at the end of the presentation. So let's take a minute and a half to write these things down. And feel free to share out, and I can share out to the whole group. Let's take one more minute. Got some answers coming in the Q&A. 30 more seconds. All right, 15 more seconds. I'm going to read out these answers and we'll wrap things up. All right, so we've got a couple answers in the Q&A, and I really like them. The first one, want to be remembered as an amazing influence, and the way that I'm going to do that is by being an amazing influence. I like that. Whoever said that, you made me laugh. Also, in Miss Ortiz's class, I want to be remembered as a funny, happy, and full of light person, and I love that. And in Mr. Bowler's class, we said a hardworking and good friend. Awesome answers. And I want, just to remind you, let's think about what we need to do to get to be remembered by that way. We also have in Donahue's class, open hearts filled with compassion and forgiveness. I think that's really beautiful. So I want to say thank you all so much for, coming on this presentation with us. And also want to let you know, if you do have the ability to scan a QR code, that you can scan this code These are 3 different ways that you can take action. If you're sitting in this presentation, you feel really passionate about the idea of creating a closer community, you can go to our student landing page and look at some different ways that you can take action to create a safer and healthier community. So by texting to 79775, by going to sandyhookpromise.org/student, or by scanning this QR code, you have some further ways you can take action. And this does bring us to the end of our presentation. If you have any questions, I can stay and answer them, but I do know that you are working on a bell schedule and you're in homeroom and you probably have some learning to do. So I want to say thank you so much for your time today. It was great to get to spend this time with you all in Massachusetts. And I look forward to talking with you again someday. And I hope you have a great rest of your school year. If you have questions, I'm here. You can put them in the Q&A and we will send those list of songs back to y'all. Bye. Thank you.